Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Blown Speakers. Today is episode 32. I'm your host, Dave Hoenigman, coming in from Yokohama, Japan. And we are welcoming back Kay, who you may remember from the PJ Harvey Rid of Me episode. And she's also in the Yokohama area. And we are welcoming our first-time guest, Brian Hasenohrl, coming in from Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how is Cleveland these days, right? My hometown. How is it?
Cleveland is great. Cleveland is great. It's surprisingly cold and windy on the brink of June, but it is what it is, but things are on the up and up here. You know? I think people are antsy for the summer, so yeah, things are by the lake.
And summer in Cleveland is beautiful, right? Because it's I don't know, here in Japan. So Kay, you haven't experienced a Japanese summer yet. It's like Japanese summer.
Yeah,
is so humid. It's pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah. So June will be rainy season, right? So it's kind of started, right? It's been raining.
Yeah. These days kind of continuously raining every day. So I was nervous about the Japan summer.
Yeah. So you got rainy season, and then you got this humidity for like all of August and September. It's pretty it's pretty bad. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the weather. All right, okay. So this was kind of a happy coincidence that both you guys, from two separate corners of my life, have both want to talk about Sonic Youth's EVOL album from 1986. So I thought it'd be fun to bring you guys together to talk about this. So Brian, why EVOL?
Oh, well, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and I guess without delving into my personal history with Sonic Youth too much, when I remember scooping up this album and just being absolutely infatuated with it. I think that the biggest thing is the cover is a giant stealer. I mean, it kind of draws you in. Like, that is pretty intense. And then when you pop that album in and you hear Tom Violence and you blow through those songs, it's absolutely an incredible album. But after listening, to Sonic Youth for what seems like my entire life now, I always come back to this album and think about it as a kind of like a lovely little portion in their timeline as a band. A moment in time where they you kind of hear a shift in the music suddenly, and then there's some super cool offshoots from this album, involving other collaborators that aren't on this album but were around at the time. And like we were talking about before, Dave, with the Chacona Youth, the Whitey album, kind of spirals out of this one, and it's a super cool set. And you got some, you have Jay Mascis on that album, and you have Mike Watt on that album, and there's just a lot of cool things that kind of revolve around this EVOL album. But this album within itself, I don't know. I can't figure out sometimes if it plays like a true rock and roll album or a horror movie at times. So it's just one of my favorite albums by them, and definitely a very interesting piece. So that's why my mind went there when it popped up. So
good. All right, Kay, why did you want to talk about this album?
Well, actually, I learned about Sonic Youth from a music documentary called "The Year Punk Broke."
Mm-hmm.
It's a documentary about the Nirvana and Sonic Youth. They did a tour in Europe, and I learned about Sonic Youth from that time. But I was not so attractive by Sonic Youth at that time, around my 16 years old. And then after I practice electronic myself, I kind of reaction to this album, to Sonic Youth, and I was just I was stunned by certain more kind of experimental guitar skills, and this album definitely is kind of one of my favorites, because I think his guitar skills is more kind of more controlled in this album. So I choose this album. And but by the way, I find that the name of this album is Retrography of Love, right? LOVE. And it's just kind of it's attractive to me, this album.
Hmm. How did you see that movie, The Year Punk Broke?
Uh, I find it on the internet,
Hmm.
and there's no subtitles, so I didn't remember the content of this documentary. I only remembered some, their sounds and they screaming and drunk, blah blah things. So I cannot understand the content at that time.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
but
after,
you can find that documentary on the internet.
hmm.
Yeah.
So after you saw the documentary, did you bought an album soon after that, or?
No, I was not really into Sonic Youth at that time. They're kind of way too their music kind of way too anxious to me. I think at that time I cannot, kind of too way too noisy for me.
That that makes sense. Yeah.
So the
Um,
I prefer Nirvana at that time.
mhm. So Brian, how about you? Like the first time you encountered them?
Oh, it's I'm gonna try to tell the story without being too corny. Um, I was probably somewhere between 10 and 12, somewhere around there. It was so my brother and I were like 10 years apart, like nine and a half, 10 years apart. So he was in college at the time, and I was like a huge Christian Slater had just come out with a movie called Gleam in the Cube. It's all about skateboarding. He's a total like wannabe skateboarder. So when he came out with Pump Up the Volume, I remember totally wanted to see that movie.
Oh,
And
I remember that
somebody
movie.
said like, "Oh, you can't watch it; it's inappropriate." So I was like, "Ah!" And then my brother shows up from college one day, and he has the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack, which is absolutely amazing. There's a ton of great tunes on there. There's that slow down version of Wave of Mutilation by the Pixies, and Cowboy Junkies do Me and the Devil Blues. And so I go through all Soundgarden has a great tune on there, Peter Murphy. So I go through all that, and I get to the end of that soundtrack, and I hit Sonic Youth had Titanium Expose on there, which is the end song on Goo. And I remember hearing that song, and I was young. I was still preteen, and I remember just that song just hit me, and I was like, this is it. This is everything that rock and roll should be. And that song to this day, when I hear it, I just cannot listen to it quietly because that song rocks. And so I probably listened to that song 10,000 times that summer. And as soon as I was able to, venture out, because you couldn't Google songs and like discover bands, so you're kind of locked in with what you know. So I'd hear some Sonic Youth on college radio, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the girl that sings the backing vocals on Titanium Expose. It's Kim Gordon, and she at the time Experimental Jet Set just came out. So you got like, she's like sings feel just like a booger, like think I put my jeans out. You remember that tune, man? I was was like, wow, this is all really crazy good. And then when I finally, you know, was able to get somebody to take me up to, you know, Record Revolution, the record shop, or Borders, and peruse their CDs, I just started scooping up their albums with my birthday money, you know, and that was it. It was over. You know, every album I got, you know, because I was backdating stuff when I could, you know, I was picking up things, and I was picking up the new albums as they came out, and then kind of putting together the discographies, you know, throughout, you know, all those, you know, through middle school and high school. And I never went away from it. It just was always, it was, every album was something that I felt like I could completely get lost in.
Wow.
So that's my history pickup. Shamefully, it spawns off of the soundtrack for Pump Up the Volume.
Wow.
But I don't know how shameful that is. I have no shame in that story.
Kate, do you know that movie Pump Up the Volume from like 19?
I don't know. I gonna.
Oh, it's don't even Google it. It's not.
Like, yeah, the movie. Yeah, I imagine it would be kind of corny now, but yeah, it was a good soundtrack, right? I mean, I remember.
Oh, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I just watched a trailer for Pump Up the Volume the other day, and I'm like, oh my, this is. But the soundtrack was amazing. You know, there was such a great well, and yeah, it had Henry Rollins singing "Kick Out the Jams" on it and stuff. It was just an incredible soundtrack. You know, so maybe the movie's better than I remember. Maybe I should go watch it tonight.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theaters actually. Yeah, Christian Slater was hot. You know, like a big deal at that time. You know, 1980 or so. Yeah.
He was doing his best Jack Nicholson impersonation throughout the bulk of his career, man.
You know, in my case, the first I heard of Sonic Youth, I think, was 120 Minutes.
Yeah.
The Cool Thing video, right? So that was 1990, right? Yeah, and I think that video is amazing, right? I show that in my indie rock class. So I mean, I wasn't. You know, that, so this album was 4 years before that. So they had and even, you know, for this album, EVOL, I mean, Kim Gordon was already 33 years old, you know, in 1986. So yeah, they had been around a bit. Well, I guess they started in 81, right?
Yeah, but they never seemed like, I remember listening to them, they never seemed like music from another generation to me. They always seem to be in the now, you know, completely present. You know, I was surprised to see Kim Gordon. She's 68 right now.
Wow.
You know, and if you hear in an interview or you read anything she puts out, it sounds so present. You know, it just amazes me how they were able to do that, and completely changed, you know, throughout the course of their career as a band, but still just maintain that youthfulness. Hence the term Sonic Youth.
So Kay, so you first saw them in that documentary, but then right a year or two later, you started listening to their music, I guess. Which album did you start with?
This album, I still remember the Star Power. That's the first song I listened, and my review at that time was like, the Star Power is like the soundtrack of some surrealistic film for me. It's like there's not so much lyrics, but you know, the crazy guitar sounds like screaming and blah blah things. So that was I was also hit by that. So that's the first song I listened to the Sonic Youth. When I watched the documentary, I didn't listen to a lot of their songs. I only focused on the Nirvana at that time. But after that, after my college, I was like, I'm a big fan of Sonic Youth now. Yeah.
Nice.
This is a great album to start with. I was actually really curious to hear which album you did hear first, and to scoop up EVOL as your initiation is amazing, Kay.
Because the first image, the first song that I listened is Star Power, and after I listened, Goo and any other albums from the Sonic Youth, and I find that I still like, the EVOL is still my favorite one. The first one I listened, and still my favorite one. So
that's awesome.
That's the reason. Yeah.
That is super cool, because Dave, I remember you, like, after you did the show with Annie, she's like, oh, tell me what your favorite Sonic Youth album is. I'm like, EVOL. So that's pretty kismet there, Kay. Love it.
It's a happy coincidence, right?
It is. That's super cool.
So let's see, you mentioned the album cover, right? So I looked into that a bit, right? It's a still from a movie called a short film called Submit to Me.
Have you ever seen it?
I watched it yesterday.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Holy cow! I remember watching. I'm like, my God, this is definitely a movie you don't want your parents to see you watching, and you don't want your kids to see you watching.
Yeah.
I think I needed to take a shower after watching it. It was rough.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, and yeah, just before dinner, and yeah, I had the same feeling. Like, I don't want my kids to come in and see me watching this. Like, I don't want to ruin taco night at Friday night. But it's cool though. It's good.
I will say this though. I will say this, and I know you wanted to talk about this briefly, but the still, that scene in the movie is, well, it's the best scene in the movie, because it's super cool. Because when she's putting on that lipstick, she starts off first looking like, oh, okay, and then she just starts going wild with it, and with the lighting, it almost looks like the bottom of her jaw disappears. And like she turns herself into like a grotesque, figure of her, with just using that makeup. But yeah, it is definitely an intense scene in the film where this stills from.
What did you think of it, Kay?
Yeah, kind of almost the same feeling. I was kind of shocked by, she's kind of suddenly into some madness, and yeah, the same feeling with
It made for a great album cover, though. I will say that.
It did.
Yeah.
And it's actually, it says EVOL in the background on the wall for a better portion of the movie, which is.
Oh, it says EVOL on the wall?
Yeah, on the wall behind it, a couple scenes. I can't remember which scenes exactly. It says EVOL. It has love spelled backwards throughout the movie. It pops up a couple times.
Okay.
So I don't know what came first, the album title or the movie, but I'm assuming the movie may have come first.
But it's like already kind of a cool example of how like Sonic Youth kind of pulls in from different sources of inspiration. And it seems like, they were just great networkers, like just getting different people on board for different projects. And I don't know, like I like, okay, so this is what the cinema of transgression, some like, I guess, short-lived kind of underground film thing that was going on in New York, right? So of course, like they aligned themselves with that, and with No Wave, right? They were around for the No Wave movement or part of the No Wave movement. right? For those who don't know, right, was a late, oh, I thought I had notes about this, but oh yeah. So No Wave, short-lived, avant-garde, late 70s, New York City, experimented with noise, dissonance, atonality. So it's, I would say different from punk in the sense that it seemed like they were abandoning sound or, abandoning song structure. And it was more about sound and tone and atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it. This album was produced by Brian Eno, right, and features some of the no wave artists of the time, the Contortions, Jesus Lizard and the Jerks, Mars, and DNA. So yeah, so Sonic Youth was involved with no wave to a degree, and you could really see that in their songwriting, right? But also, like the album we're looking at today, EVOL, was on SST Records, which was from the West Coast. So No Wave was really centered in New York City. SST is kind of West Coast hardcore punk, right? With Black Flag, and the Minutemen were on that label, the Meat Puppets. So I think it's, I just think it's kind of cool, like already at this point, you know, just beginning to talk about the album. We're looking at...
Oh, Dave, are you back?
I am back, and I guess the recording just continues. How's that going to look?
It stopped and then it came back, but I was going to go use the bathroom really quick.
Okay, here, let me pause. Okay, so we're back after some brief technical difficulties. Yeah, so I mean, they have a close relationship with the Minutemen, which we're going to talk about Mike Watt a bit later. Yeah, and their SST, the label was run by Greg Ginn of Black Flag. So, I mean, I just think it's cool that Sonic Youth is able to be involved in so many, you know, pull from so many scenes, right? West Coast hardcore and, you know, no wave, underground film going on in New York City. And they were always, you know, had relations with the whole art scene in New York City. So I just think it's cool how they're able to pull everything together and kind of navigate through all of this. And, you know, it seems to have a great relationship with all these different artists and scenes. And I just find that very impressive. So, and okay, looking at the guys. So, I mean, one reason that this album is significant is that this is the first album with the classic lineup of Sonic Youth. So Steve Shelley joins the band, right? So we have, right, Thurston Moore on vocals and guitar, okay? Kim Gordon, vocals and bass, etc., other things. All of them add different sounds here and there. Lee Ronaldo on guitar, and he does a spoken word track on this album. And yeah, the first album with Steve Shelley on drums. And this lineup would stay together, you know, until they broke up decades later, right?
Dave, I got to throw this in there, though, because it always cracks me up. But before EVOL, Bob Burt was the drummer on the Bad Moon Rising album. And then prior to that, I think they had a few drummers. One of them, which, you remember the movie Ferris Bueller?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you remember? Did you know this already? It's amazing to me. So, Kay, have you ever seen the movie Ferris Bueller?
I haven't. Sorry.
All right. Well, do you want me to finish the story for the podcast reasons, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It always cracks me up that the guy that works in a parking garage that takes the Ferrari for the joyride, the guy that says, "What country do you think this is?"
Yeah,
was once the drummer for Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
In their pre-EVOL days, you know, pre-Steve Shelley. But That one, that cracks me up, man.
Yeah, totally. So, but Kay, I think you like Jim Jarmusch, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love Jim Jarmusch.
So the movie Stranger Than Paradise, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Richard Edson is one of the actors in that. So that's the same guy you're talking about, Brian.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my God, I don't know that.
so the guy in, right? So you have John, I think it's John Lurie and Richard Edson. So one of the guy with the really flat nose.
I kind of
That's a
remember
good-
this guy.
In Stranger Than Paradise, he is the original drummer of Sonic Youth, right? Or he was the original drummer. So kind of, did he play on an album, Brian, or was he? Oh, really?
I believe he played on their that debut album with Burning Spear on it. So I think that's his stuff. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's just a nice little tidbit.
Yeah. I mean, those are, huge cultural. I mean, Ferris Bueller's a huge cultural touchstone, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and his line in it when he says, "Hey, you speak English?"
Yeah.
How much do you think this is? It's like epic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, let's see. So.
Sorry, I took you off track there.
No, that's very welcome. Kay, do you have a favorite member of Sonic Youth?
Of course, Kim Gordon.
Kim Gordon, yeah. So Brian, are you go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, there's no specific reason. She's so cool. I mean, I think every Sonic Youth fan will fall in love with Kim Gordon, right? She was so kind of have a strong power on the stage. So yeah, and then the Hasenohrl, because I kind of love his voice. So and his experimental special guitar skills. So yeah.
Okay, have you ever listened to any Free Kitten?
A free kitten, sorry?
Free Kitten, like a kitty cat.
Uh,
The band Free Kitten. It's an offshoot. It's a Kim Gordon. I don't know. I can't remember who else is in the band, but they are. If you love Kim Gordon, you have to listen to some Free Kitten. It is fantastic stuff.
oh, I don't know. Sorry, I'm a fake fan. Sorry.
No. You're good.
I bought her books, the girl in the band, but I haven't read it. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's great stuff, and just from watching the podcast that you did with Dave on PJ Harvey, I can kind of I'm kind of gauging that accessibility to some of the stuff is tough. But if you get a chance to Google some Free Kitten, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
So what year is Free Kitten?
Oh God, you know what?
No, I mean vaguely. What era? What or 80s, 90s?
I think she kind of waved in and out of it. I can go pull the album and get you an exact year if you want.
We're okay. We just
I kind of late 90s, maybe 2000.
Yeah.
Am I right on that? Late 90s, 2000s?
Yeah. And 2007 till now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great stuff.
And she has a solo album from just a couple of years ago, like 2018 or something, that seems to be very well regarded.
Yeah, I know that album.
Yeah. Is it good?
It's kind of different from Sonic Youth, so but I think it's good. She's kind of totally different from the Sonic Youth age, a Sonic Youth time. So
One of my
it's kind of pop music, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I should listen to that.
Yeah, her new album.
Brian, did you read that? Did you read her book?
I did not. I did not. The one that came out most recently.
Yeah, everyone says it's amazing. So yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
read it at some point.
I did not read it. I don't delve deep enough into the books that the bands write, probably as much as I should. I that's definitely one that's on my list, though. It's one that made my list.
Well, yeah.
To me, like, sometimes the books that get written just are so different from the music that you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I put them on the back burner more quickly than I put an album on the back burner.
Yeah.
You know,
but it does seem to be a book that people bring up a lot and reference a lot. So it strikes me as one that would be worth reading, at some point. So yeah, I'd like to read it someday. Yeah, I always thought she was so cool. Like, just when the first time I saw the Cool Thing video, yeah, for me, I was just focused on her. I thought her presence was amazing, and her voice, and yeah.
One of my favorite Sonic Youth stories, experiences, is 100% Kim Gordon. We went to go see him. I went to go see them with my sister, and it was Sonic Youth and Flaming Lips, and it wasn't a small venue. It was actually in like a festival type setting, and it was one of the last songs they play. "Shaking Hell." I don't know if you're familiar with that song off of "Confusion Is Sex."
Early song.
She lets out some of her most amazing screams on the album. So by the time when we were seeing them, she was in her 50s, and at the end of that song, Kim Gordon gets up on top of the front speakers and just starts, the way she screams "Shake" at the end of that song, she was like almost convulsing. My sister had never seen him live before, and I remember just hearing the song start off. I was like, "Oh my God, are they really playing this?" And then by the time we got to the end of the song, I look over at my sister, and she's like, her eyes are huge and her jaw is dropped. It was just such an amazing rock and roll experience. And I mean, Kim Gordon live, my God, she can belt it out. It was incredible. And I know that my sister was a huge fan of that moment in time. So it was I'm a fan of all of them. I can't pick one because I love the dynamic that they create in with one another. But that was definitely a showstopper for me. I'll never forget that moment in time watching her sing "Shaking Hell" live, because it was incredible.
So where was that exactly?
That was at Blossom in Richfield. You ever go there?
Sure. Yeah.
On that the big where you sit up on the hill, and they got the big, like, it looks like a big park pavilion.
Yeah.
But yeah, she had, in heels and a dress, she had one foot on each of those front stage speakers and was just laying it out there, man. It was cool. It was super cool. So I've never seen a rock and roll moment that quite matched that one. So Kim Gordon gets the crown.
I envy you.
It was, you had to see it, and if you listen to it live, you can get a taste of it, because the live version of that song on the album it kind of blows the studio version out of the water, just because she is so intense. She's she commands your attention when as soon as she walks on the stage, because even when they're soloing out, she starts doing these awesome dances. You're like, man, she just exudes rock and roll, and that's kind of one of the things when she wrote that book. She said in a book interview, you know, she never saw herself as a rock star, but always saw herself as an artist, you know, a visual artist. I'm like, I don't know. You know how to jam, you know. So,
Yeah.
anyways, it was. She is impressive, but yeah, I don't know if I could pick a favorite band member, because once you start listening to the solo stuff and the stuff that he did outside of Sonic Youth, and there's so much great stuff, and the intricacies and the differences that they all brought to the band, but yet they all melted together so well. I don't think you can remove one member and have the same thing happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was going to kind of say in closing of this. Yeah, I mean, actually, all of them are crucial to the sound, right? And you know, and just the fact, I'm sure they didn't, you know, decide lightly to invite Steve Shelley on board for, you know, the long haul. So, yeah, I mean, there are 4 people that worked together for decades. Well, from '86 until when did they break up? 2012 or later than that?
2009 is the last album. That's when The Eternal comes out, right?
Okay. All right.
And I think 2011, 2012 is when they got divorced.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if we're going to say to 2009, is that 23 years? Wow. So, I mean, this lineup was together for 23 years. So, yeah, they were doing something right.
Yeah, and they always seem so chill with one another.
Hmm.
You know, if you see them in interviews or just their interaction on stage, it just happened. It flowed, you know.
Just to give people idea of their 80s output, right? You could see here, EVOL was their 4th album, right? Their first album on SST. Yeah, so I don't like how this website does this. It gives the most recent release. So it says that EVOL was on David Geffen, but that's not true initially. It was on SST. So many people, I mean, Daydream Nation seems to be cited by most people as kind of the crucial 80s Sonic Youth album. So that's why it was interesting to me that both of you wanted to talk about EVOL, right? So I guess, Kay, how do you compare this to their other 80s albums? Have you heard their other 80s albums, or?
Yeah, I think this album, there's a lot of stuff you can talk about it. I mean, every song kind of have a background, like they wrote every song related to a story or related to a artist or something. So, I mean, they're doing this album like in a really serious way. I mean, it's like and every time I listened to this album, I mean, I have a like every time I listen to this album, I kind of got a new story from this song, from every song of this album. So I was kind of, yeah, I think that's amazing. That was amazing. It was just like last time we talked about Riddle, and we suddenly discovered some new story from some lyrics. So this album always gives me that kind of information. So I think it was, you know, it's just amazing.
Okay. So Brian, how do you see it related to their other 80s material?
I think this album plays out. I think it presents itself as very well thought out. I think that even down to the title, because I think when you play out the album, it almost sounds like Backwards Love, like the dirty side of love. It's like, it's gritty and passionate at the same time, which I don't think that they, I think Bad Moon Rising sounded like a Bad Moon Rising, so they're kind of capturing their album titles as they go through. But for some reason, EVOL, it's almost as if they stepped into that zone of passion that would carry them through the rest of their career in different avenues, because every album started to sound different. But EVOL to me was the first album, coming from the opening of the debut Sonic Youth, and then Confusion is Sex, which is wild. Confusion is Sex is more wild than the debut album. And then Bad Moon Rising is like a conglomeration of what EVOL would soon be, but then EVOL just kind of hits. It has a nice play through each song, and it sounds like Backwards Love to me. I think that it's the peak, or it's a new plateau that they hit in the 80s, moving on into Sister and Daydream Nation. It was a very necessary step they had to take. And I know we talked about it a little bit before. I love the offshoot of the Whitey album, because I know that the tracks that they were putting on EVOL, there were some that they put onto the Whitey album that they were making at the same time, but they probably didn't fit what they were going for with EVOL. So they end up on the Whitey album, which is absolutely incredible too, I think. So, and it's an interesting era of the band, I think.
So the Whitey album is a side project, all right?
Kind of, yeah. It's a side project, but it's a side project with the actual band. There's just a lot of people stepping in on it.
Okay.
Like I think I've seen before. I know Jay Mascis pops in on it. Mike Watt does a lot of stuff, because they would tour with Firehose and stuff, so they had that connection there.
And Mike Watt is on 2 tracks on EVOL too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I read somewhere recently that his band Firehose, one of his bandmates died. I don't
No, it's not. This is before Firehose. It was the Minutemen.
Okay. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Who was it? One of his bandmates that passed away?
D Boone. So I'm going to talk about this when we get into track.
Okay,
track
then
talk.
I guess you could just cut this part out of the.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But did they kind of reel him back in?
Yeah. So it's an interesting story. I want to get into that. Wait, so to just kind of vaguely say, would it be kind of okay to say that the first couple albums are pretty experimental. They're still very no wavy, right? Mm-hmm. And then Bad Moon Rising is getting more into song structure. And then to me, like EVOL seems almost like a bridge from no wave to what would become indie rock, right?
Yeah. I think it's a crucial stepping stone for them.
Yeah. And I think they're trying to create a conceptual stuff for their band from this album. So it's really important, and yeah.
It's important for them, but it's also important for what would become indie rock. Because I hear, just listening to this, I hear a lot of what would become shoegaze, or I hear elements of shoegaze. I hear kind of vocal stylings that like Pavement would use, right? And just I think in the beginning of beginning or the progression of an attitude that would really a lot of the 90s bands would really extend, I think, right? So I don't know, I hear a lot of 90s in this 1986 album, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, and they developed so much musically. I think between EVOL and Bad Moon Rising, so like a lot of those crazy like super awesome guitar rundowns where it's like brrr, that you would hear on Bad Moon Rising would kind of like disappear into this like dissonance and feedback. Whereas like when you listen to Expressway to Your Skull, they fit. They all of a sudden sound like meteors in the backdrop of a song, and not just ending on like disappearing into space, but staying locked into the meter of what they're doing. And I think it's it's definitely a cool vibe.
You know what? Did you hear what Neil Young said about Expressway to Your Skull?
In regards to Buddy Miles, or
no, Neil Young just said that Expressway to Your Skull is the best guitar song ever written.
Oh, that's so awesome! That's so awesome. No, the stuff that's shooting out in that song is just so incredible, and I can see why Neil Young would say that, because his stuff was always so jabby. He's always like chunky and jabby. But I love the fact that so that song, Buddy Miles, he played he's a drummer, singer, played with Jimi Hendrix in the band of Gypsies.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to his album Expressway to Your Skull?
No.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And so when you listen to it, you can, and he's a total R&B guy, from the 70s. And after the Jimi Hendrix Experience disbanded, and I think they all they did when they did Band of Gypsies was replace the drummer with Buddy Miles. And his Expressway to Your Skull album is incredible. And I wonder sometimes if they're paying homage to him. Well, of course they are with the title, but the song lyrics touching on Mystery Train, and then the first song on that album is called Train, which I don't know, but it's a cool little nod to R&B, which you really don't see coming out of Sonic Youth that often, or you wouldn't expect to be coming out of Sonic Youth, but their influences definitely are broad.
Wow.
So, yeah, yet another influence they're incorporating, right?
Yeah, and if either of you get a chance to check out that album, because when I listen to that album, it totally, I couldn't stop.
Okay, Okay, so yeah, we're gonna play a part of a track off the album. So Kay, you said this was the first song of theirs that you heard, right? Star Power.
Yeah, Star Power. It's the first song.
And how did you? So I'm always interested in how you find music, because you said it's kind of difficult in China sometimes, right?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, but I think I find this in the internet. No, I don't have their CDs or albums at that time, so I listened it through the internet, and maybe the Star Power is on the top recommended, so
Okay.
I just random click it, and then I was stunned. So and that memory is still refreshed till now, so let's listen to it.
But I remember you said there's no YouTube or no Google in China, right?
Yeah, but there are kind of music apps, music website.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
At that time, so I can listen to a lot of foreign bands from that website.
And nowadays it's much better than it was like 10 years ago, right? In China.
Yeah, we can use Spotify, Apple Music, a lot of stuff. So it's getting better.
So for me, that's just so interesting that like now that it's kind of open and all these kind of a lot of young people like yourself are really kind of for the first time able to hear a lot of this 90s music, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's check out Star Power.
Yeah, that's kind of the sound just right before you pause. It's gonna give me the image that it's the soundtrack from some surrealistic film. Like there's a movie named An Endless Dog or something. Pixies write a song
Oh,
about that.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The old
Yeah,
surrealist movie. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and when I listen to these songs, I just the movie just popped up.
Ah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it gives me a strong, image in my brain. So
Mm-hmm.
still, yeah, that was
Like
impressive. Yeah,
like a nightmare, kind of. That.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of nightmare. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Brian? Star Power.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the whole nightmare thing. I always well, not always, but like the 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 little girl from the ring that comes through the TV and attacks people. Always kind of this sounds like something that she would listen to in her off time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, like when she's kicking back and relaxing. You know, she puts on the EVOL album.
So,
Yeah. There's a yeah, good dose of just creepiness in the album, right?
It does it's definitely on the side of the macabre,
Hmm.
but it still sounds like somewhat poppy. You
Hmm.
know, because the whole opening to Star Power, it's got that nice beat. You almost feel like you can dance to it. And then it spirals into that craziness. But then they always bring it back on this album, which is super cool. Because after that guitar breakdown, you come back into the drums start back up, everything cues back up. And, you finish off that nice kind of poppy beat to what, the Star Power starts off with. Love it. It's a great tune. Love it.
Okay, let's see. Let's look at some of the yeah, I mean, well, just mentioning creepiness. I mean, I'm sure, that I mean the album cover is kind of designed to make you feel kind of disturbed or threatened. So
Yeah.
I think it was rather purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which
this
is
back cover. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Which is crazy to me, because you look at the, aside from their opening album cover, which is just a picture of the band, you have Confusion is Sex, which is that looks like somebody scribbled that picture in the mental institute. And Bad Moon Rising is just awesome, a scarecrow with a flaming pumpkin head, and then you have EVOL, which is mildly disturbing, and his sister is just this like a collage of things, and then you all of a sudden move into this nice, smooth, Daydream Nation. Daydream Nation with the candle, and even Goo, even though the what it says on it is severely disturbing, about running away, my sister's boyfriend, we killed my parents and took the road. The picture is so chill. It looks like, two people from the 50s enjoying a smoke and a drive in a convertible. All the album covers, from Daydream Nation on are really mellow, but the opening album covers, they were somewhat disturbing. This one probably being the most to me.
Yeah, it's
me too. I love the cover of this album. It attracted me immediately.
Oh, absolutely. Because if the picture's not enough, the way that Sonic Youth is scrawled across it is just amazing.
Yeah. And the color, I kind of really like the color match of this album. With a black and white background, and use red color with the title, and it was give me a strong, strong image.
Yeah, and the cool kind of purplish blue that EVOL's.
Yeah. Cool blue, yeah. This blue is kind of like the blue from washing machine. Yeah.
We would always call it 1970s blue. Back in the day when they rolled their credits to movies, in the 70s, instead of the black backdrop, it was always like you watch Car Wash. Car Wash is when they roll the credits. It's that blue. All the movies in the 70s. A lot of the movies.
I saw the movie.
Yeah. My brother and I would always joke, we'd be like, "Oh man, that's 1970s blue."
Wow.
So because that blue would pop up on everything. It kind of has that feel.
Yeah, the same blue.
I can't think of another album that uses a film still, right? A movie still as an album cover. I think it's pretty rare, right? Just
Yeah, I don't know where the picture from the cover of Murray Street comes from.
Okay.
It almost looks like it's a home picture, but I don't know who the kids are. I don't know the history behind that artwork. The kids in the net. Are you familiar with the cover of Murray Street with it's
with a blue net, kind of?
Yeah. And the kids are underneath the net. It looks like they're playing in league.
Yeah, I also love that album.
Oh, that album's amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. That's the first album that I bought their CDs. The first CDs was that album.
That was the first one you bought?
Yeah.
How did you feel when you heard Disconnection Notice?
I know I was so excited when I found that CDs, but I never heard the songs. I just attracted by the album of that CD.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and I was like, wow, this album was so amazing.
It's pretty different from EVOL though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's kind of, there's only 3 or 5 songs in that album, right?
It's 6.
6.
Yeah, it's a short. It's definitely a short one.
Yeah, it's short and still a amazing one.
Yeah, no, I love that album.
Yeah, only 7. Only 7.
Huh.
Is that what it was? Did you look it up?
Yeah. Only 7.
What year was that album?
2002.
Okay. So I saw their tour. Well, I was going to mention it later. The album, it's 2001, I think, that New York Ghosts.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I went to that.
yeah.
I went to the Sonic Nurse tour.
Wow, that was.
Yeah, that. Now that album probably battles as my favorite.
Yeah.
It definitely has that song. My favorite song on that album is New Hampshire. That might be my favorite Sonic Youth song of all time. That Sonic Nurse album is incredible. But I love is New, what is it? New York City Flowers, New York City Ghosts, or is it just New York City Ghosts?
Ghost.
Is that the name of it?
Something like that.
I think when that came out, like it kind of took like a hit. Like people were like, "What is this?" I loved that album when it came out. I thought it was great.
Well, I like that they, you know, as a Clevelander, I like that they talk about D.A. Levy on that album. So that,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that the song is what, Flowers Crack Concrete, and
Yeah.
it's about a Cleveland poet in the mid '60s who was really crucial in starting the zine culture, right? Like he's really one of the first guys to do that, and yeah, he had kind of a tragic story and died young, and it was great. Yeah, it's great to see Sonic Youth, a high profile band, you know, kind of champion an obscure artist like that. And they've done that throughout their career, you know, like just involving different artists and, you know, kind of glorifying and promoting different artists, you know, from poets, filmmakers, musicians. I mean, I just think it's one thing they've consistently did that's very cool, you know?
Absolutely. They, it seems like they're not shy about reaching out and helping people up. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong too, and cut this from the video if I'm off. When they were on the West Coast, didn't they have a hand in helping out Beck Hansen? Didn't they scoop him up from like while he was doing the backyard concerts? Am I right on that one?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't seem unbelievable.
I think there's a connection there, and I you know, I think it's an article I read some time ago, but I think there might be a connection there. If I'm wrong.
Well, one podcast I listened to said something when David Geffen signed Sonic Youth. Like part of the understanding why they signed him, because they figured that Sonic Youth would introduce them to cool bands, right? Yeah. So even on top of, maybe they knew that Sonic Youth would not be a top 10 band, right? But they thought, but just the network of people they know and the influence they have, because I feel like they played a hand in introducing Nirvana to David Geffen. I think.
Yeah.
And, to me, it doesn't seem, you know, beyond reason or believability that a few years later they would have done that for Beck. I could see that. I'm not sure if Beck was on that label, but
yeah, no, I correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the other stipulations was that Geffen gave them complete artistic freedom. Like they nobody was allowed to meddle with their stuff. There was
yeah. You got to just appreciate artists who are able to create that kind of situation for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think they had. Not being a top 10 band, I think that they've always been able to establish a presence, you know. And I mean, look, we've been hanging out talking about them for quite some time tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to plug in here. I'm about to die.
Okay, here, let me pause. Okay. So I wanted to look at the back cover. The back cover to me, after the intensity of the front cover, the back cover is a bit of a disappointment. I don't know. I feel, but maybe it was kind of a balance type thing. But the the picture of the band looks cool. I mean, I didn't realize she had black hair at the time. Kind of looks like Patti Smith. And it, it is funny that they're in a heart shape, which kind of the irony that they often had, in their music, in their art. I noticed that the track, I don't know if this is the official back cover. Like, did you guys have this on CD, or I don't know. Brian, you had the CD as a kid?
I had the CD first. I had a copy of the vinyl in my hand at one point in time, but I don't remember looking at the back cover.
Okay.
If it looked like this, but yeah.
Yeah, and just on this is just from the Discogs website. So I don't know, maybe this is some special release or something. But I've noticed that the tracks are not listed in order. So, but
no, I think that they were not listed in order on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a thing. On the back of the CD, they're not in order either.
Really? Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But here, on the inside sleeve, we see a bit of like foreshadowing. Well, I mean, they were very into the zine culture, right? Like kind of handmade magazines and the whole zine scene. So, I mean, that's what the inside of it looks like to me, is like a zine, right?
Yeah.
But it also looks like kind of a precursor to the Goo album cover, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Goo, the cover of the Goo.
But Goo is so Raymond Pettibone, right? Is the artist, and he did a lot of the Black Flag covers, and I don't know, maybe other artists or other covers from SST as well. I'm not sure, but he was kind of part of that West Coast hardcore scene. So again, it's them kind of taking something from somewhere else and bringing it forward into the Sonic Youth vision.
I believe that picture with the eyeballs on the hands pops up in another album too. I think pops up either in Dirty or Goo.
Okay.
I think.
Is
like a color version of that photo.
Okay. Now, is that Brian Jones? That looks like Brian Jones to me with the sitar.
Yeah, I think it's sitar.
It does. I think that in the album I'm talking about, it's Kim Gordon that does it. I might be mistaken though. I'd have to go dig through my box of CDs and pull up.
Okay. Does Sonic Youth use sitar at some point?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Some the track listing. So this is on the album, and then it was slightly different on the cassette. So somehow Expressway to Your Skull on the cassette was listed as Madonna, Sean, and Me, right? So they're kind of that recurring theme of Madonna that they went back to a lot at this time. Okay, so we talked a bit about Star Power. What other tracks would you guys like to discuss on this album? What do you think? I mean, of course, Shadow of a Doubt, there's a video for it. It's a very nice Kim vocal. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
The song I could not stop listening to when I first got this album was Marilyn Moore.
Oh. Why? What?
I don't know. It felt right at the time.
Actually, I quite like the Lydia Lounge and her band, the Eight Eyes Spied, right? I kind of forgot the band name. And her band, the No Wave band.
Okay. Yeah, she's from the No Wave scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw a documentary about No Waves, so I think she also cool. But actually I didn't know until today that the Marianne Moore was, the vocal is Lydia Lunch.
Ah,
New knowledge today. Yeah.
She sings on Bad Moon Rising too. She sings some of the vocals on Death Valley 69 on Bad Moon Rising. So
Oh,
she pops up in a couple of these things, I believe. I think.
yeah, I see.
But I think that for Marilyn Moore, I read somewhere that's her that wrote either the second verse or the last verse, however you break that song down into verses. Which the ending lyrics of that song are pretty intense.
what?
Yeah.
So what do you mean? What happens lyrically at the end? What?
Oh, every time I listen to Sonic Youth, I'm drawn first to the music, and the lyrics always seem to come secondary.
Mm,
And then every once in a while you'll hit a song. Diamond Sea kind of has that feel too. Diamond Sea, even though it's just a musical masterpiece, like the lyrics are really, really beautiful. And the lyrics at the end of Marilyn Moore, I hope I remember them correctly. Bruises from bottles that never get better. Bad baby bitching, barking at the door, hammer in hand and head to the floor, Marilyn Moore. Just that whole that final image of hammer in hand and head to the floor, it just seems so intense to me. Is that just like this, like the most brutal suicide that could ever be committed? I don't know. It's just it's a very intense song with the screams in the beginning and then ending on that slow. It just kind of dies out so slowly. But I just always thought it was a really intense song. I thought it really, as dark as it is, I appreciate the fact that I believe they really captured what they set out to capture with that song, imagery wise.
what's it about exactly? Or is it, or do we not know? Or
I think it's about I'd have to look it up. You got me digging in my brain. I hope I'm not like totally missing the mark on all these. I believe it's about the depression that Marilyn Monroe struggled with.
okay, so it's about. I had that idea too. It's about Marilyn Monroe, right?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's an interpretation of it. Not it's maybe on the side of historical fiction.
Mm.
Okay.
Tom Violence is somehow about Tom Verlaine from television.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure how exactly. So for me, it's like a lot of times I know, okay, this song is vaguely about this, but I don't have a clear understanding of how.
So I think that they were big fans of television. And there's a great backstory there too with how the Jazz Master actually became the Fender guitar of Sonic Youth. And just to tell it short, is they were actually, in the beginning stages of the band, they didn't have a ton of money to spend on these expensive guitars, so they would go to these pawn shops and the Fender Jazz Master wasn't a huge, it wasn't in like demand, so they were selling them for cheap at the pawn shop, so they actually scooped those up. And one of the things was I was actually watching an interview. They associated it with the guitars from television because he played the Jazz Master. So like, oh, let's get those. Those are totally solid for great music like television. And what's really cool about it is the Jazz Master, the bridge on it is set forward. So Sonic Youth actually does a lot of play behind the bridge to get those real high-pitched tones that you hear in their songs. And it actually worked out to, be the best guitar for the band. And it just happened because the dude from television played it and they were cheap in New York at the time.
Huh.
But it's kind of like one of those, yet again, another Kismet thing where Sonic Youth you know, it's kind of, the sound of the band is kind of built around the jazz master, and it kind of just developed that way. It wasn't sought after, it just, you know, organically grew that way. Anyways, so
They went through a lot of guitars from what I
yes,
the stories that I've heard.
Yeah. And I didn't realize how much stuff was stolen from them over the years.
Yeah. Like at one point, all of their equipment was stolen at one point. What?
Yeah, in California, they had a show that night. And people were like giving them guitars after their sets in that show. But yeah, no, they lost all their gear at one point, and slowly got just a fraction of it back.
I don't know
that. Yeah, there was some. It's one of the documentaries. I had it on last night, and yeah, they talk about that. How Thurston was saying, yeah, like all their equipment was stolen, and they had it all like specially, you know, rigged to play certain songs and everything. Yeah. So it's like when it was all gone, they felt like they had to start from scratch, like to build a new sound. And he said it turned out to be a good thing because it just forced them to innovate. So that is, you know, like a testament to how this band is just always moving forward, right? You know, whatever happens, they adapt, and they
adapted the day of. I think they played a show that night with other people's guitars, and like this is a band that doesn't do standard tunings. You know, they rip the guts out of every one of their guitars and you know, whatever. They get the sound that they want, and all that stuff disappears. And they found a way to do a show. In the one interview I was watching, it was with Lee Ronaldo. He had actually said that when they played that show, they ended up playing a bunch of, because he said usually they focus on the album when they do a show. He said at that show, because they had, you know, they were compromised, they ended up playing kind of like a smorgasbord of songs from their past. He's like, kind of like a greatest hits moment. He's like, we actually had a lot of fun doing it, so we started to incorporate more of our old songs into our sets after that day. So when you went to a Sonic Youth show in the 2000s and you heard something off of Sister, it's you kind of owe the people that stole all their gear that day. So
one thing. Yeah, we mentioned a couple times about how Mike Watt plays on this album, right? So he plays on In the Kingdom number 19, and he plays on this bonus track, the Kim Fowley cover, Bubblegum. But it's so as you said, so it's an interesting or crucial, I don't know, intense time in Mike Watt's life. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this. Thurston Moore says this at the end of In the Kingdom number 19, right? So just as I was listening to it this week, at the end of the album, or the end of the song, right? This is one of the songs Mike Watt is on. There's a bunch of spoken word at the end of the song, and Mike Watt is actually saying lyrics to some Minutemen song. And then Thurston says this, right? Never gave a damn about the meter man till I was the man who got to read the meters, man. So you remember when Thurston says this at the end of that track?
Yeah, I love your clip art too. That's incredible.
Yeah, the meter man. And
he looks so stern and he doesn't even have a face. His posture is just intimidating.
I mean, he has a job to do, right?
Yeah, anybody with a clipboard standing means business.
Yeah. But and I knew I had heard this somewhere before, and it took me like a day or two to place it. And so let me show you a clip here. Yeah, so I knew I had heard that somewhere, that line, right? Never gave a damn about the meter man. And it took me a day or two, and I'm like, oh, I know where I heard it. So this is from '85. Somehow the Minutemen played public access TV concert in America. And at the very beginning,
I never gave a damn about the meter man till I was the man who had to read the meters, man.
Yeah, so Mike Watts says it at the beginning of that performance, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that it pops up in that Sonic Youth song.
That's quite the connection, Dave. I'm impressed, man.
But
Well done.
but as you said before, this is only a few months after. So, all right, so the Minutemen, right? Right, you got Mike Watt on bass, and I think George Hurley, is that his name? George Hurley was the drummer, and D. Boone was the front man and guitarist. And D. Boone was killed in a van accident in December of '85, right? And for the months after that, right, Mike Watt was just so devastated he wasn't playing, right? And so him performing on this album was the first time Mike Watt had played since the death of D. Boone, right? Is that your understanding of the story, Brian?
Yeah, yes.
So I don't know. It's another example of just Sonic Youth being cool. I mean, I'm sure. Mike Watt. I mean, even decades and decades later, he still refers to himself as D. Boone's bassist, right? I'm D. Boone's bassist, right? Like he loved this guy so much, right? Yeah. So, and he still, talks about him all the time in interviews. So, yeah, I mean, you could only imagine how devastated he would have been. I don't know the details of that accident, but it happened in December of '85. And so it was March of '86 where he was involved with EVOL.
Yeah. And he pops up a ton on that on the Whitey album, and hands down one of the coolest songs ever redone is the Madonna's first release, Burning Up.
Yeah, I think so.
He does a cover of that song that is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the coolest tunes ever played. I love the way he does it. So, he kind of jumped in on EVOL, kind of joined in on that whole Madonna infatuation, and cuts a version of Burning Up that is so so sweet. So, yeah, but he definitely has a cool influence in this era. For Sonic Youth.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to talk about when I saw Sonic Youth in 2001, but yeah, Kay, I want to hear your story about when Thurston came to China.
Yeah, it was 2017, I think. And a music festival in Shanghai, they invited the Hasenohrl, but there's no specific band name. It's only written the Hasenohrl group on the poster, and so I was so excited, and I went to their live, and it was just incredible. and I mean, their new band, it was Hasenohrl was the vocal and the guitar player, and the bass player was from the My Bloody Valentine. And I ran into Hasenohrl after his life, and on the side of this stage, and I was so nervous, and I don't know what kind of things to say. I was like, I was wearing the blue t-shirts that exactly same as the washing machine. The cover, the album cover, and I was just like, I took off my shirts, and I was like, please sign here. And he was kind of, he might thought I was a weirdo, you know. And he just find a pen and sign his name on the washing machine, on the machine,
Oh,
on the blank of the and that's it. And he didn't speak to me, and he just finished the sign and then left. That was my. But I still kept that t-shirts, and that was kind of my treasure.
ah,
That was the first time I got a chance to meet a band that was so I was so into, and I met him in person in real life. So, but I was kind of regret that I should spoke to him a little more. Yeah. So, but still, that experience was amazing to me.
do you have the
That's
shirt
cool.
home in China, or do you have it with you?
Yeah,
In
in China,
Oh.
I didn't bring it here. Yeah, but I think I got a photo of it. If you,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the photo of my shirts, and there's a sign of
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
he signed it on the washing machine.
assessing. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's not the original shirts of. It's just some Chinese t-shirt shop. They
Oh,
they copy that. Yeah, the cover. So.
It works. That's super sweet. That's awesome that he signed it right there on the white.
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, the shirt isn't real, but the signature is, so that's okay.
Yeah.
The shirt's as real as any other Sonic Youth t-shirt you would have got too. They're all copied and printed anyways. God, your shirt's legit. So is the signature. That's awesome.
I saw Sonic Youth in 2001. Yeah, it was early 2001. Yeah. So wait, did we figure out what's the name of this album? New York Ghosts and Flowers or something like that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
called
yeah,
New York City
yeah.
Ghosts and Flowers.
Okay. Yeah, and it was yeah, it was a good time. At this time, Jim O'Rourke was a member of the band, right? So they were a five-piece band. And I mean, one cool memory I have of this show. So I went with my friend Greg, who is on early episodes of Blown Speakers, Buffalo Greg. He's from Buffalo, New York, and we were watching Sonic Youth. And then Greg says, "Isn't that Mike Watt right there?" So Mike Watt was in town with Jay Mascis, right? So at that time, Jay Mascis had that band, The Fog. You remember The Fog? And they were in Tokyo like the same week. So yeah, my friend recognized, hey, that's Mike Watt. So we went over, and especially Greg, my friend, was talking to Mike Watt during the concert, and Mike Watt was really cool, really friendly. And afterwards, he invited us backstage, right? So we got to go backstage with Sonic Youth, and Jay Mascis was back there, right? Because he was also in town. So we hung out for a bit. I didn't talk to people as much as I would have liked to, but my friend Greg talked to Mike Watt a lot. And yeah, we had a good time. So that was a kind of a special memory from that show.
That's an awesome story, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's cool. We've all had
cast.
personal interactions with the band. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's like an all-star cast of like 90s alt rock, man. that's a pretty good group. You got Sonic Youth plus some additions, man.
So All right, so this is yeah, as I said, we met Mike Watt that night. He was really cool. He invited us backstage. And yeah, this is kind of the very end of the night, and my friend turned on his video camera. And I don't know if you could hear this clearly, but I say, this is me and my friend Mike Watt. I'm a really big influence on him. And then he starts laughing and says, absolutely. My buddy Mike Watt. I'm a big inspiration for him. Okay. Absolutely. All right. So that's that. But
that is awesome.
Yeah.
I love how he immediately agrees. And like looks at you like it's a tender moment between you and Mike Watt.
But yeah, just
absolutely
such a nice guy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you if you've stayed with us this long. It's let's see, that was episode 32 on Sonic Youth's 1986 EVOL album. And okay, Brian, thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise. And yes, Kay, thank you for joining us again. And I'm sure both of you guys will be back in the future. So we're going to go out with a very special song that we mentioned before. Neil Young referred to as the greatest guitar song ever. That's even mentioned in the Pitchfork review of this album. You know how they do those retro reviews? They mention that. So, okay, Brian, what did you want to say about Expressway?
It's an amazing track. And I think that it just takes what we heard from Star Power and elaborates on it, because it definitely has that surreal feel. So thanks, Dave, for letting me on here, man. Kay, thanks for hanging out. It's been awesome to meet you. And I'm glad that I got to join in like with the Dayton crew here for a little bit. So we're going to outro to Expressway to Your Skull. Is that all right? Sweet.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.